This particular talk, I am not using slides because you guys have seen enough slides. So this one is about AI and what I've seen over the last 2.5 years about how I'm seeing a lot of executives think about AI and about what we're actually seeing in reality from, let's say, a senior engineer or an architect or a platform engineer as they're trying to use it. So as I go around and I'm talking to people, there's a lot of misconceptions about where AI is good, where AI is bad, and how you should think about applying AI inside your environment. That's why I call this fast, cheap, and wrong. Because a lot of executives that I talk to, that's how they think about, hey, how can I remove me from my organization? How can I use AI to be my critical thinker, be my problem solver, and all I need is somebody to just be able to move widgets across the board. And my degree is in education. And for me, there was something that I learned when I was in college around Bloom's taxonomy. Anybody here of Bloom's taxonomy? So this is a taxonomy of learning. So whenever we go through and we are trying to, oh, I'm trying to do a video. All right. So I can turn it on.
All right, cool. Sorry about that. Did not realize that this was being videotaped, so from an education perspective, Bloom's taxonomy talks about when we're learning anything at the very beginning, what we're doing is we're just in charge of memorization. But the highest form of learning is when you are able to teach that concept to another person. So if we think about AI today, what's happening is a lot of it is memorization. What they're asking you to do is write prompts. All you gotta do is write a prompt and magic stuff comes out. Well, unfortunately, when we think about critical thinking and problem solving, what we're actually doing is we're trying to get to a higher level of learning to be able to teach something else. So those people that I see really invested in AI right now, what they're doing is they are constantly innovative. They're trying all the different tools. They're trying different prompts. They're trying the tooling infrastructure. They're testing MCP. And what they're doing is they're coming at it from a critical point of view. So I have a really simple example to be able to show you. And this comes from a conversation that I had with the head of AI at Google. And one of the conversations, anybody here who's used AI, we all know how they want to charge you, right? They want to charge you by token. So what happens is I have up here on the left and on the right, anybody here ever take computer science in high school, in college, anything like that? Cool. So you guys all know what this is. Fibonacci sequence, right? If you saw this in a code review, anything you would change? Looks pretty good, right? Good recursive function, really tight. So I'll tell you what, let's see what AI thinks about this. So what I'm gonna do is on the left-hand side, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to ask Anthropic to optimize it. And what I'm gonna do on the right-hand side is I'm gonna ask GPT, I'm gonna ask it for detail. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show them side by side, and we hope the internet's working. So what I'm gonna do is each one of them is now thinking, calling out to each one of the LLMs. And now think about you are a senior architect or a senior developer, and you're about to get a merge request in GitLab or a pull request in GitHub, and this is gonna be the review that you're about to have. Yes, that looks like a Fibonacci sequence. This right here, this looks really good, really tight, optimized. Yeah, I give that to another person, I can tell you they're gonna tell me most likely, they're gonna need AI to go ahead and select this and ask them what it is, because this does not look like a Fibonacci sequence. And then the other thing is let's go over to the other side. So now we went from, what was it, 6 lines of code? Let's just look at what GPT did. All right, yep, that looks like a lot of tokens. I now have 141 lines that I now have to review. So again, what are we optimizing for? So what I asked the head of AI at Google is I said, When are you going to come along and when I ask you a question, you're going to sit there and be like, Lee, it looks like you've been writing code for over 25 years. This actually looks pretty good. I have nothing to add. That's what I want AI to do. I want AI to be an actual reviewer, not just always assuming that what I'm asking you to do is because I need more. I don't. In software development, one of the things that I've learned over the last 30 years is the most senior developers, what they do to your code base, they're actually removing code. They're getting rid of dead code. They're refactoring to make it more readable. They're doing things because the architecture over the last 10 years has shifted, and doing it the way that we did it in 2001 is not the way that we do it in 2025. That does not mean I need more code. It means I need better code. So what we are seeing here is between these two, I'd like to know if anybody in the room thinks either one of these is better than the one that we had before. So there's a lot of things that go into this. One, we think the context window is better when we have more. So if I can get 1 million tokens in and I can give you 1 million tokens out, so much better for me. But what I did is I just gave you 6 lines of code and I didn't get anything better. So if I gave you more information, like what would I have to give you to be able to come back and tell me that code is fine? So what I am seeing right now with a lot of executives, I tell this to all the executives that I talk to, that as a field CTO, I get access to people, and a lot of times we have very honest conversations. And 2 years ago, when I would talk to them, everything was AI, 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 what do you have? Give me more, I need more, give me more AI. Now what I'm seeing in today's market is they're asking me, but what problem are you solving? So from an AI perspective, if I have this problem, you tell me how AI is going to solve that. So at GitLab, one of the things that we are thinking about is not about just giving you a copilot or giving you somewhere to be able to allow you to generate more code, but where are the problems that we actually see? Now, think about the world that you live in, and do we have any security engineers in the room? No security engineers? Okay, I will act as a security engineer in the room. So I now get a merge request from my friend George, and George goes ahead and he submits some code. As a senior dev, he's learning a new language. I am the expert in the language from a security perspective, and there is a vulnerability that I see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead inside of GitLab, and here I've got a Spring Boot application, and I'm gonna go in and look at my security dashboard. So inside this security dashboard, I have a vulnerability, and as a security engineer, this is critical. As a critical, do we let criticals go into production? Anybody? Nobody wants to raise their hand because I know you all have let criticals in production. I know I've let criticals in production. But what would happen if the problem that we're trying to solve is we want to have more secure code? So now with GitLab, what we're doing is we understand that smaller context window and having an ability to be able to ask questions about, well, tell me more about this vulnerability. And when I ask it, I can talk to Duo on the right-hand side, and I can have a conversation about this particular security vulnerability. And we have the ability to be able to have really small, tight context windows with predefined prompts that allow you to be able to understand, hey, what about this security vulnerability makes it a critical? And how might I resolve it? And then from there, we're taking this to another level. Something that is in beta right now is what we're calling our Duo agent platform. Because this is great when I'm working across the software development lifecycle. But what happens when I need to go vertical? So a lot of our customers, especially the large financial services companies, they don't have one project sitting in GitLab. They've got thousands of projects sitting in GitLab. So now as a security engineer, let's say that I work with Duo to go ahead and we have a really good prompt, and now I can go ahead and tell Duo and say, go find every other project that has a security vulnerability and apply this change as an MR across every single one of them. How many security vulnerabilities do you think you could do if you had 50,000 projects in GitLab and you could just wipe them all out with one call? That's pretty powerful. That's a business problem that we're solving. Same thing for code quality. Let's say that you've got code that is currently sitting at a level and the code has dropped from an A to a C in quality. And the reason why is because you've got cyclomatic complexity, whatever that is. And you want to go ahead and you realize that somebody's gone in and they've added some code through AI that has now created this. And you have now found this across many other projects. So you get a senior architect to come in and refactor that in one location. You can then use the Duo Agent platform to go ahead, recreate that so you'll have prompts that you can then customize and tune, and you can then roll that out across multiple projects. So we're not just talking about AI anymore going horizontally across a software development lifecycle. We're now giving you the ability as a knowledge worker to be able to use AI to solve specific problems in the software development lifecycle. Something else that if you haven't watched the video from our last release, Angelo Rivera, one of our senior engineers, has built a knowledge graph. One of the other things that we know that AI has an issue with is how to build graphs of knowledge. So if I know that this is linked between an issue, an MR, a security vulnerability, and a release that's currently sitting out in your AWS infrastructure or your Azure infrastructure, how do I walk back to be able to track that back, to be able to understand what was the originating issue, and do I see this issue across any other project? So those are the things that we're starting to build at GitLab, and if you are interested in learning more about what we're building, how we're trying to apply this so it's not just more code, more stuff coming into your repositories, how do we start to build things so we're actually making the code more secure, we're making things more concise, be more than happy to talk to you over at our booth, and I will go ahead and give up my time to the next presenter. Thank you all very much.